Hello and welcome. In this video, we are on Beaver Island, Michigan, aboard the passenger car ferry Beaver Island, doing safety and emergency training. Let's get right to it.
All right, so why we're doing this, we're actually required by the Coast Guard to do drills once a month. So it has to be documented. This is pretty simple documentation. We have fire drill, man overboard, loss of steering, damage control, banded ship, loss of house control, and safety meeting. So we'll start off with a safety meeting. All right, so as you guys know, this is kind of a dangerous job. We don't really wear steel-toed shoes. We don't have hard hats, so we have fork trucks running in every direction. So as you guys know, it's kind of dangerous. So I would say the most important thing in this job is situational awareness and knowing what's going on around you, using your ears as the eyes in the back of your head, and just being very cautious. But I always like to ask you guys too, like, what do you see as safety concerns? What do you do on a day-to-day basis to drive under?
The biggest thing is inattentiveness by customers, the passengers. They're unaware of everything. They're in vacation mode.
Yeah, and they've been drinking, some are intoxicated.
Yep.
So what can we do to keep ourselves and them safe in that situation?
Just monitor, walk around, do your walk arounds every 15 minutes or whatever, and make sure everybody's
Be
doing what
aware,
they're
be
supposed
aware
to
of
do.
them and where they are and what they're doing, where they're looking. You know, if they're looking off to the left and there's a pothole in the driveway or in this parking lot directly in front of them, then yell at them. Not yell, but holler out to say, "Hey, guy, take a look."
Yeah, there's actually a whole class that you have to take on crowd control, like to get your STCW, which is the standard for training walk standing. So if you get, you're not licensed deckhands, you're not licensed people, but if you do get a Coast Guard license, that's one of the classes you have to take is crowd control, and it's really kind of interesting. It's some really silly things in emergency situations. It's not an emergency situation. Ryan, what do you see? It's kind of dangerous.
People climbing on stuff, using the poles in the cabins as monkey bars.
And you see anything that kind of scared you?
Overall, just like you say, the equipment, your head, your knowledge of what's around you. Don't step off the boat, don't bump your head on stairs going down the engine room, all that kind of thing.
Yeah. Line handling can be kind of dangerous. You know, if the line slips, you get your hands caught there. If line snaps, a lot of people have been killed by snapped lines. Or pulling a cleat out or a baller. So if the boat pulls, someone actually, that was a long time ago, but somebody died at Disneyland because their riverboat actually pulled a cleat out. The cleat sprung back, went flying, and killed somebody in the head. So line, you probably already know this, but you don't want to be in the bite of a line. So the bite is basically a curve like this. So if you're standing here, the line starts to pull out, and you get caught in it. You don't want to stand in line. Well, the tensions, there's a lot of tension on this line. You don't want to be standing here because if it snaps, it's going to come right into you. You kind of want to stay out of the line of the snap. So, but these are pretty heavy duty. Oh, and the other thing that's dangerous is even just moving, just skate back and forth, lifting, and getting your toes under the ramp. One thing that concerns me, I've seen some people do, is when we're loading cars, like people come around this corner, and I know, you're kind of in a hurry to get to the next car, but be careful, come around this corner when we're loading cars, because I can't really see you until the last minute when you come around the corner. So be aware of that.
As you watch this video, keep in mind that every vessel is going to be different, and this safety training is specific to the Beaver Islander. It's a passenger car ferry, so there's a lot of talk about fork trucks, loading cars, unloading cars. We got chains that are used, and I think it's right around 97 feet, almost 100 feet long. So that's about the size. It was built in the 60s. So there's parts of this video that do pertain to the age of this vessel and unique parts of this vessel. So just keep that in mind as we go through this.
But it should be, like if the chain's at an angle this way, it should be in this position, because if it's in this position, it's easier to knock it this way. So, have you guys ever heard of that? Yeah. That's just something new I learned. Doing chaining, there's a whole, trick and science for chaining too. You want to do the top of the tire. I've seen some people do the bottom of the tire. But if that tire rolls, it's going to actually release pressure instead of increase it. So you chain the top of the tire pulling down. All right, so we'll go into a manned overboard drill. So as far as I know, no one's ever fallen off. But it can happen. You've seen kids hanging over the rails and stuff. If someone were to go in the water, the lake's pretty cold, so we don't have a whole lot of time before hypothermia sets in. So we have to kind of react quickly. So one thing you want to do, like in any emergency, is to grab the handheld radio off the bridge. Somebody run up there and grab it on channel 68. So then we're in communication, you know what's going on. We have our intercom speakers. These are not working. And we have some new ones on order. But that's one way to communicate is through the intercom speaker, but it's not working right. So really kind of the best way is to have the radio, because that can be carried anywhere, down in the interior, anywhere. But if you see someone fall off, you say, yell, man overboard, and in which side, port or starboard too. Basically, whoever's at the helm, that tells them which way to turn the boat. So like if someone falls off on the port side, we actually want to turn to port so that the propellers move away from the victim instead of closer. So turn the ship in the direction they fall. But you also want to have spotters. If you can't spot yourself, assign someone else. A spotter is just to point, keep their eyes on this person all the time. Because it's really easy to lose somebody when it's weighty, because they'll go down in a trough. And then you want to throw a life ring, which is right here. All right, so that's how I practice a life ring. I don't know if you guys have ever thrown a life ring. And these are kind of old school. The newer life rings actually have bags, throw bags, like they use in search and rescue. And see, you can see how it's already tangled already. But you want to find the end, which is right here. The throw bags work a lot better, actually. I guess this will work. You want to hang on to the end, and then throw it out just as far as you can. Now, if they can reach it, you want to hang on to it. If they can reach it, then you can pull them back to the boat, close to the boat. If they can't reach it, then just let this go. And this leaves a long tail that they can swim over to the line and pull the life rings with them. But yeah, so hang on to this line if they can reach it. If they can't reach it, just let it go. Now some of these, one on the pilot house has a strobe light. So a strobe light's for nighttime actually, but it's clipped on. We really don't operate at night that much, right? So if it's not nighttime, just unclip that strobe light and just throw it without it, because that can actually be kind of dangerous if that strobe light hits somebody. But if it's dark, leave it on there. If it's not dark, don't worry about it, leave it on there. Someone else want to try? All right, practice.
So it should be spooled up correctly when you go to grab it.
Yeah. bullseye. Alright, so once we get them, we'll have to maneuver the ship and get them to a spot where we can pull them on board. And so you guys are now experts on that. So why don't you show Terry how we deploy the ladder?
Do you want us in suits first?
Yeah, that will start from the beginning. So say exactly what you do. So explain to Terry what you're doing.
I've been through one, so
First thing is the life jacket.
Well, the first thing would be actually flying.
That, but I was always
No,
told-
first, I mean jackets. Yeah.
jackets first and then the gate.
So these are my same jackets. So they're well, that's the generic term. These are actually made by Stern, but they have flotation, they have reflective lights, and also insulation to keep you warm.
If you grab the long fold, please.
Now keep in mind too, the stuff's not going to be as easy to get to when there's cars in here. We have cargos, and some of the stuff is actually very difficult to get to. Explain what you're doing. These course handles. Can you catch that, Terry? Where they're stored? Right here. You have to veer it across.
The basket, please. Go ahead and toss it over. Grab rope, grab rope. Sorry about that. Just toss it over. And then life ring is needed where we're.
Danny,
he took it back up.
Did you take it upstairs? Okay.
Well, also remember that you don't let it hit the water until you're there, because it's hard to steer the boat.
Correct.
That part of it.
Yep, until the victim is alongside and ready to get in, and then use the poles as needed. Never jab the pole at the person. Grab it and hook. Try to hook clothing, of course. If they're coherent enough, allow them to grab a hold of the pole itself, so that you pull them close to the basket, and then once in the basket, they can crawl into the basket. And if needed, we have to jump in. With the
Just over prayer, we don't have to jump in.
Hopefully we don't ever have to do this in real life. And then of course the backboard is obvious.
show you the latitude. So this is just how we place this here. This is one deployed. Yeah, that's actually deployed. This is kind of cumbersome. This is heavy. It only takes like 2 people. We don't drop it overboard. So we have a safety. So that could allow someone to climb up. But, so the idea is, if they're conscious, you know, you could just deploy this and they can crawl up. You can help them. Or if they're unconscious, you have to deploy this basket, and then that's where you get the pole, get them in there, and crank them up,
And jump in as needed.
and jump in for well.
So this part here, does that mess up your steering with the boat?
No,
As
not
much
really.
as that, because we were told that one messes it up if you get that in the water when you're still trying to move around.
Well, it's going to drag. It's going to pull
But
it.
the ladder
Yeah, no,
won't
the
so
ladder
much.
is, yeah, that's somewhat fixed, so it actually matters. All right, any questions on that?
I'm good.
All right, I'm going to tear it down, put it away.
Grab that side one.
damage control means? See if you take a guess. Nope, got it. Damage control? Well, damage typically means damage to the hull. So damage control usually refers to like a puncture hole, like if we hit something, or an accident, you can hit a buoy or something, puncture a hole. So the ship is divided up into watertight compartments, so that if we get a puncture in the hull, it will just flood one compartment, it won't flood the whole ship. So it's divided into, these compartments are accessible by these hatches. So this hatch right here is just a little compartment from here forward. It's usually called the collision compartment. So if something hits there, it's relatively small. But this is also our chain locker. So that's where the anchor chain is stored. And then you have another compartment right in here that goes to the engine room, which is right here. Now there's the escape hatch for the engine room. So everything back, this section here is the engine room, fuel tanks. And so this is your emergency exit out of the engine room if you couldn't get up that out or that way. The shut off valves are right here. So if you turn these shut, righty-tighty, that'll cut off fuel to the engines. Now the reason for that is if there's a fire down there, to stop a fire in the engine room, you want to cut off the fuel in the air. So this is how you cut off the fuel. Cut these off right here. In the air, we actually close the vents, the dampers. We'll talk about that in a second. So from the back of the engine room, there's another watertight compartment right here. These hatches. And then the last one, usually called the last red, that's from here back. And this is where the steering gears are. So have you ever opened one of these hatches today? Yeah. Okay, let's try it again. Just go through the motion. So you have a T-handle, and you have to unscrew it. And actually pull the bolt out. Access the buildings in these watertight compartments. Now look at how the steering works. Let's all take a look at this and see how it actually works. Because there's no power steering, it's all cable and gearbox driven. So that chain right there is connected to the big wheel in the wheelhouse. And that turns this shaft. It goes into a gearbox, there's a 90-degree angle to another gearbox, and another 90-degree angle, and it's well, down to here. That turns a chain right here. It goes all the way back. So this whole thing turns. This is when we turn the ship, this is what's turning. Comes all the way back. These are all bearings. To this drum, which has the cable wrapped around it. So as we turn the wheel in the pilot house, this drum turns and then pulls this cable back and forth, and that goes down. That's what's connected to the two rudders, and it pulls the two rudders back and forth. So if this cable were to break, one of those gearboxes or something like that, we lose steering. So our backup system is kind of unique and unusual, but it's this wheel on the stern of the vessel. So that wheel at the back of the boat turns this chain, which turns this drum, which goes down the drum. But this cable is not connected right now. So in the event of a steering, if something happens to our main steering system, then we actually have to go down there, take off these cables, and then connect these cables down there where they connect to the two rudders. So that's how we would fix a steering issue. And then we'd have someone on the back with the radio, and we'd be communicating with the bridge, a little more to port, a little more to starboard, and you kind of just be steering the boat based on what the commands you're getting from the bridge. All right. And then one thing, John, can we just break out our damage control kit just to kind of see what's there? I know it's not super simple, but yeah, we can go ahead and close this up. But all these hatches, except for the intruder escape hatch, all the hatches are the same. They work the same. And again, this is a very old school boat. Most modern vessels have a little better design than this. But you see it has the O-ring here too, so that keeps it watertight. So you check that O-ring. You watch your fingers. So this is our damage control kit, all right? So what we have in here are little odds and ends to fix repairs. So we have axe, we have like wedges, we have like plugs. So there's a hole in the boat, we try to cram this in. And different kind of wax, lots of clamps, plastic, and then you have lots of miscellaneous repair, news, duct tape, cords, flashlight. So this is some of the resources we have to use in the event we do have a hole in the boat, or have to make some kind of repair. That is stored. Where do we keep this, John? Where's its home? Just down in the engine room. All right. Any questions on like damage control? No. Another good thing, I don't know if we have any, is wet patch. It's basically epoxy. It's made by, but that's another really handy thing to have. So it comes, it's like silly putty in a way. You get two parts, mix it together, and you can stuff it in a hole, and it works underwater, whether it's wet or not. That's really good for damage control. All right, so should we move on to fire? So we're gonna fire up the fire pump and charge a hose. But before we do that, have you guys had any training in fire? Like, you know, different kinds of types of fires, A, B, C, D? You probably haven't had too much, right? So class A fire is, that's gonna be like paper, wood. It's gonna have a white smoke. Class B fire are oils. They're gonna have a black smoke. Class C fires are electrical fires. And class D, which have become more prominent now, are like chemical fires, like from lithium. So metal fires, and those are the worst actually. So we have different types of fire extinguishers for different types of fires. Mostly what we have are CO2s. But now the Coast Guard, just in the last inspection, so these, you can tell it's CO2 because it has this nozzle, this type of nozzle. Right, so you access it, pull it out. Pull the pin, take this nozzle, and shoot at the base of the flame. The nice thing about CO2 fires, especially like an engine room or up on the bridge, it won't damage electronics. So a lot of the chemical type fire extinguishers that aren't CO2, those they can actually damage electronics. But with this, with CO2, if you have a fire in the engine room, get the fire out, you can restart the engine again at some point possibly. Whereas with a chemical chem extinguisher, you can't really do that. But really, in the event of a fire, you kind of want to go as quickly as possible, knock it out with a fire extinguisher, because fires grow exponentially. So the longer they burn, the bigger they're going to get very quickly. So the first thing you want to do, kind of fire, is hit as quickly as possible with a fire extinguisher. And then the next line of defense, but yeah, here's another type of extinguisher that the Coast Guard just had us put on quite a few of these, right, John? How many? We got like 6 of them on? 5. So now we have 5 of these every year.
And those include D, correct?
No, they're just ABC. Okay, for D, which makes a good point, the only thing we really have for D fires is this blanket. So it's a fire blanket. And I get it's got a lot of fibers in it, so I don't want to pull it out. But in the event of like a car fire, electric car fire, you want to put the gloves on. The gloves are in there. Take this blanket and put it over the vehicle. And somehow, if we ideally want to get that eject out, put the car overboard. Because it'll even burn underwater. I mean, lithium fires, metal fires will burn actually underwater, so we can't put them out with water.
Do we have like on this boat the things that you throw underneath there and they kind of explode and take the air out?
Yeah, so look, I was going to get to that next. So these are pretty cool too. So we have one on the bridge and one down here, but we don't have a fixed system in the engine room. So there's a big tank down there. We'll go down there and look at it. But the big tank is basically a CO2, and it's got a long hose, so you can pull the pin, turn it on, and you have a long hose. You can go in different places in the engine room to put it out. But there's no real fixed system, so this is like the next best thing to have a fixed system. So it's like a fire extinguisher grenade. So here you pull a pin, and there's actually an alarm. It'll sound alarm, and so you basically pull this pin, throw it in the engine room, shut the doors, close the vents, and let it put out the fire.
Do we have turnout here on board?
No, we don't. No. So turnout here is most modern vessels, almost all modern vessels, have basically like firemen with it's called Scott packs. So it has an air tank, full mask, and then full fireproof suit, boots, helmets. So they do have that on the Emerald Isle. So that's referred to as turnout gear, but we don't have that here on this one.
Do we have oxygen?
No, we don't have oxygen.
So using the system downstairs that we're yet to see,
Yeah.
we need to be mindful of lack of oxygen.
Yeah. That's why if there were, well, I'll show you what's down here. Like, this boat is from the 1960s. Even though a lot of these ancient systems are kind of they're not. So this is a big CO2 tank right here. Again, you have to pull the pin and actually turn this one on. It doesn't have a squeeze nozzle. Pull the pin and you actually have to lefty-loosey open it up. And then you have this wand with the hand thing here. So you press this. So you have to pull this pin too. And then you can go around and do this. But as Jim mentions, if there's a fire down here, it's going to be full of smoke. It's going to be hard to see. You can't breathe. So that's why this thing's really not that effective. But this is what we have to use. But I mean, this would be okay. Even if it was a small fire, though, it's going to be smoky down here. I mean, there's pretty good airflow. You got the blowers on it. But even in a small fire, it's going to be smoky down here. It's going to be hard to breathe. And plus, you're using the CO2, which is displacing. I know this is going to be a system. That's not a good system. So what do we have in terms of, so we have 3 fire hoses, fire stations, one at each level. There's a station going right here, how do we get water to these fire hoses? Well, actually it comes from the lake, it's lake water, but we have two ways of pumping it. One is using this pump here, which runs off the port engine. So we have to have the port engine running. We engage it, and then it'll pressurize. So this is what's called the manifold. This is for the intake. So this pump is actually used as a bilge pump too. So if we start flooding, if we damage the hull and start taking on water, this is how we pump the water out of the boat. So we basically open the valves to what these represent the different bilge compartments that I was showing you, the different watertight compartments. So like if this compartment is flooding, then we open this up. So we're sucking water from this source, and then it would be going to the pump, and then we can pump it overboard right over there if we're taking water out of the bilges. But if we want to fight a fire, we're gonna actually suck water from this one here. This goes to the sea chest. So they're sucking water from the lake. It's going to the pump and then to the fire stations. Like number one right here. And so there's one on each level. There's one up there on the car deck and one at the top level. We got the radio. Straight up is fog, board is off, and this is open. So fog is just kind of like a spray. So put it shut. Well, I don't leave it open. I'll just open the valve. Just shoot it open. Just see how it feels. I know the hair was looking. Fog light. That's just the fog. Flatter. That.
So you also mentioned the pond.
That guy? Yeah, we can find the device back in here. For jamming, the idea is, so this hooks up to a fire hose. Right there. So you just take off that nozzle, attaches here. And this jams like right into the grill of the car. This is like if there's an engine fire on the car. You can just like jam this straight in and turn it on, and then the water will be spraying out all over the engine. So another little device. That valve open. Is it open? Just keep walking it like this. questions? Getting ready for a trip to Shark. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Terry, for coming. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks for watching. Hopefully, you're able to take something from this vessel and apply it to vessels you work on either now or in the future.